Leave it in the comments with the time mark now what you think it was before I put it out. It's just got that hook back in shape. Keep getting lost and distracted. Okay, so hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Healeyverse Creations, a place where pretty much anything could be next. Today we are going to be looking at making a medieval axe ring, historically accurate. Feel free to leave a comment if you'd like to prove me wrong. Okay, so as I said, today we're going to be looking at building a medieval style, historically based axe ring. Now the reason I say historically based is because the description of a historically accurate axe ring is it's kind of simple. It's basically a ring that hangs on a belt or a strap of leather that attaches to a ring that hangs on a belt. So, you know, it's like I said in the last one, I'm not going to lean too much into the historically accurate because I'm not going to sit here and pretend I can make something out of leather that someone couldn't have 200 years ago. So it's going to be historically accurate. It just may not be a historically depicted version. But enough said about that, we're going to get into it. In fact, no we're not. Before we get into it, it's a slight detour to do this video because initially my plan was to do an axe frog. One of our subscribers left a comment and requested an axe frog. So initially that was going to be my plan. I was going to try and double that up, but a spanner was thrown into the works because we decided we're going to go to this medieval festival, the Gathering of the North. If you haven't seen the video about that, it's pretty cool. Feel free to go check it out after this one. But we realised that we were going to be meeting the hooded man while we were there. If you haven't seen him, very good channel. Lots of historical facts and tips and tricks for shooting bows and all kinds of cool stuff. Go check him out. Since we knew we were going to be meeting him there, the first time we'll be meeting another creator that we actually watch, let's make him something. So at first I'd set out with the idea that I was going to make him an axe frog, and then I thought, he likes to lean very much into his, or I thought he likes to lean very much into his historical accuracy. So a frog may not necessarily be the best thing to make for him, because he may not be able to wear it. So the axe ring was born, and the sword frog is still, the axe frog is still coming. It's just going to be a later video. I've already got a version of it. Again, it's in the other video, but it didn't work right, so I'm going to fix it. And then it'll be another video of its own. So like and subscribe if you'd like to see that. But for today, let's get into the axe ring. As I mentioned, the only real description was a ring that could either be attached to a belt or was attached to a strap of leather that would attach to a belt, and that was pretty much it. So in my mind, there's room to play. So play I did. I came up with this little shieldy kind of shape. It was just a case of figuring out what shape I wanted the strap on the front to be, because what I'd initially planned to do was just make a thick back layer and then have a strap that the ring hung on and also went through the belt. And then I thought, for structural integrity's sake, what about if we have the strap run through two separate pieces that were the same size and shape, and then the axe ring would sit on its own separate strap? Nothing else to pull on it, less wear and tear. That was what I was going for. I had my two shapes. Now it was a case of choosing my leather. I'd already decided that when I was making the hooded mans, I was going to go for like a greeny brown colour palette because natural, woodsy, you know, Robin Hoodsy. And for mine, I was going to do this grey and red. But the more I was doing it, the more I was like, it's not really going to match a lot of my stuff. If only I knew someone who'd had a lot of red themed objects and items for their character made recently. And that's when I remembered I'd made loads of red stuff for my wife. So Katie was getting the red and grey one, and I was just going to cut some extra pieces for me. Simple as, because I like the brown and green colour that I'd done for the Robin Hood. I like the I'm doing really well. I like the brown and green colour that I'd done for the hooded mans, so I was like, I'm going to do that, but I'm just going to add something extra to his to make it a little bit different. Which Robin Hood. And if there's one shape that really springs to mind when you think of Robin Hood, it's an arrowhead. So arrowhead it was going to be. I'd recently actually watched one of his videos about a few different types of arrowhead, and the one that really stood out to me was a swallowtail broadhead, and I was like, that one, that looks cool. It's not quite a traditional arrow as you'd imagine it, but it's just got that hook back in shape, very Celtic-esque. So swallowtail broadhead, that was the one. That's what I was going for. And at this point it was pretty much a case of how am I stitching these together. Obviously I need to leave myself two opening points that a belt can feed through it, and then I can't fully stitch down the front thing until the rings arrive, because that was a whole separate thing in and of itself, not knowing what size axe shaft he has. Because daft as it sounds, this would have been dead happy for me to prepare ahead of time. But we don't do that. No, why would we do that? Why? Tell me why. Because there is a big difference between this and this. So, I was like, So I was like, I don't know what size his axe is. I don't know what size I need it to be to fit. I hoped and crossed my fingers as tightly as I could that it just wouldn't be so big that the axe could slip all the way back through it. So I had to get the 50mm rings, which I didn't have. I had like 40. So luckily it wasn't difficult to get them. It was just I had to wait for them to turn up, which we were going on Saturday and they were turning up Friday. Luckily we ended up not going till Sunday, but I did still have them made by Friday evening, so I was ready for Saturday, and that's a fact. If you don't believe me, leave it in the comments. Because to be honest, I had a really busy week. Like I said, I'd made the axe frog, I'd made Katie's skirt hike, I'd made all 3 of these axe rings. It'd been a good week. Not only that, and Katie had also been making the green hose and the thing that I can't tell you about yet because that's another video. You're gonna have to be patient. So I got so distracted. Where was I? Oh yeah, size of the axe. Right, so yes, needed to know the size before I could proceed further because size matters. As I said, once I'd got the 50mm ring, I knew it should fit. Of course.
Was it this time? You told me to stop playing with my straw mat, so now I'm gonna drink.
You done?
I'll take your time, it's only been 2 minutes already. Okay, you finished.
Right, so keep getting lost and distracted. Okay, so the axe should fit in the 50mm ring as soon as it turns up. So what I need to do is make sure I prepare all the outer layers, but I can't finish closing anything because the first thing that needs to happen is I need to close that front strap over so that when I sew the 2 back layers together, you can't see all the stitching from the front piece in the back. Follow me? Except for the 2 lines that run all the way across where the belt strap has to pass through. I'm gonna leave those, well, I don't really have a choice but to leave those, but I'm gonna do those last so that it holds the 2 pieces together, and it's not just being held together at the 2 points where they go over the top. It's also going to run across through to hold everything nice and sturdy. My only regret with this thing is that because I have such thin leather, fingers crossed it'll hold up for a while. But I do have my concerns for how big and heavy an axe may go in this thing. It could well tear something, but we move. It's a free gift. More than happy to fix it if anything goes wrong for him or mine, or Katie's of course. Katie's should actually be okay because hers is slightly more stretchy leather, whereas mine and his is more natural leather that's more hardened and less stretchy. Best way I can describe it. I still don't know much of the leather terminology yet, so if there's a keyword for that, if there's like a phrase or a saying for that, feel free to let me know. And while you're down there, feel free to hit like, subscribe and notification bell if you'd like to be alerted whenever we post things like this, because we do it quite often. Maybe not as often as we should, but we're trying to keep somewhat onto a schedule. It just doesn't always work out like that, as you know. If you've ever tried to do anything like this before, it's a pain in the backside. So, I also didn't want to just leave the openings where the belt will slide through open. I wanted to stitch them so that there was something to just break it up at those 2 points, so I didn't just go to dead nothing. So it didn't just go to nothing at those 2 points. So I decided to just do a cross stitch running all the way down. A little whip stitch all the way down one way and whip stitch all the way back up the opposite way. Gets you a cross stitch. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but that's what it looks like, so that's what I'm calling it. And it was just rinse and repeat at that point. I finished our hooded man's first, and then I finished Katie's, and then I finished mine on the last day. Because, in fact, no, I think I may have finished Katie's first because I did already have the 40mm rings, which Katie's is slightly smaller because the chances are she won't ever be carrying a big axe. And it can also be used for like tying things on, tying extra pouches on, hanging bags from, hanging daggers from. But since I noticed the hooded man carried an axe just in his belt, I was like, maybe you could do with something easier to just in and out of. And at that, we are pretty much all done. This one's Katie's, and here they are. And you can see the difference in the ring sizes here. So Katie's was I think 40mm, and mine is 50mm internal. Potentially even 35 looking at hers now. So maybe 35 to 40mm, and this one's 50mm internal. But like I say, Katie's has got slightly stretchier leather on this bit, so it should take less damage as it sort of gets pulled over time. It should hold up longer. Whereas this one, I'm concerned that the more it gets roughed around and the more it gets stretched, it may start to leave some slight creasing along here. I can't help that. I don't really have much else to say. From what I've heard from the hooded man, he seems to really like it, so that's great. I know I like him. You couldn't wait 2 minutes? Yeah, no. I had to do it right now, because otherwise I would have missed the chance to interrupt you. Okay, you finished now. Cool. It also looks really, really cool in the middle of my sword frog, so I can like have my sword hanging through that way and then the axe hanging down in front of it, which is just... And again, I'm so glad I went for multi-colours on this because it means it fits with anything. It goes well with the black belt and the black hanger, and it also goes well with the green and the brown on this. It goes well with my pouch. It even looked good with the pipe hug and the little smoking pouch. If you haven't seen the video making this sword frog, go and have a look at it because probably one of my finest creations yet. And it didn't feel the love, and I definitely didn't just hit myself in the ankle with a dagger handle. I wouldn't do that. That'd be stupid. That's it. Pretty simple. Like I say, mostly just running stitch all the way around and then cross stitch around these two sides here. Everything else pretty self-explanatory. All you can see at the back is the two lines that run across, as I said. You can't see any of these where it holds the front pieces down. I call that a success. And like I say, in my mind, that's historically accurate. That is straps of leather attached to a ring that attached to a belt. Prove me wrong. On that one, I'm going to leave it there. Oh god, no I'm not, because we just hit 200 subscribers, which is hella cool. And we really, really appreciate everyone that's come along and joined us on this journey so far. Because, I mean, it's been a little bit over a year now, and we've seen pretty decent sized jump in just the last, like, 6 months of it. So, to everyone that's new, welcome. Feel free to make yourselves known down in the comments. You don't need to be shy. God knows I was, but I got over it eventually. Kind of, mostly, for the most part. Believe me and subscribe. So, with that being said, I believe it was in our 10th video. I promised that when we hit 200 subscribers, I would finish my foam orchris that I had started making about a year before we made that video. This one. Now, like I say, it is hard foam. It's got a steel rod running through the inside, so it's by no means any kind of LARP ready, but it could be a pretty cool project. And I know lots of people make Lord of the Rings type things now, but do you know what? I started on it so long ago that I want to finish it, and I've been holding off ever since I said that I'd do it when we hit 200. Maybe you didn't all sign up for that, but either way, it's probably what you're going to get. There's one more thing. Oh yeah, I'm really good at remembering things before I sit down. So thank you to everyone who's joined us recently or been with us since the very beginning. There's always one. So thank you to everyone who's been here supporting us, whether it's recently or from the beginning. We really, really appreciate it. And on another note, I recently had a birthday. I say recently had a birthday, it was like 2 months ago, but I recently got my last present for my birthday. And to anyone who knows, probably recognises the sort of thing that would normally come packaged in a box like this. I'm going to pause for a few seconds, leave it in the comments, preferably with a timestamp. If you feel like it, leave it in the comments with a time mark now what you think it was before I pull it out. No cheating. Okay, you had enough time? It's a LARP dagger. I bet a few of you thought it looked pretty sus when it was in that packaging. Get your minds out the gutter. It's a LARP dagger. And how cool is that? Maybe to some of you it's basic, but to me that's hella cool. And I am going to make a little sheath for this, or a little carry compartment thing. I'm going to make a couple, in fact. I'm going to make one of them I can't really tell you about because it'll be part of something else, but I may also make more of a universal one that can be transported onto different things. So it'll be like a sheath cross knife frog, dagger frog, maybe. Dagger frog, that's a hell of a word. Whatever it is, I'm going to make sure it's cool. So if you'd also like to see that, you know what to do. You know what to do. I don't need to keep telling you. I've said it twice already this video. Do you know what? Just in case you don't know what to do, you need to go down, you need to hit that like button like this. And then, just to the other side of it, there's a little button that says subscribe. You want to hit that and turn on notifications, and you'll be alerted whenever we post any of this stuff. At that, we're all done. I thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time to hear it out to the end. If you've stuck around this long, congratulations. I know I'm very, very good at the rambling. So, I appreciate you, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Whatever that could be. See you soon, guys.